On a gloriously hot and sunny day in Norfolk, we're at Snetterton and we're ready for British GT qualifying. The first of 4 parts with 2 separate sessions for GT3 and 2 for GT4. The first session in each category determining the race 1 grid, and then with the other driver aboard, the second group is going to determine the race 2 grid. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, and a very hot track it is, nearly 40 degrees by way of temperature. Little bit of a breeze, but for the pit crews and overalls, for the drivers in the cars, it's a good job this is only 10 minutes per part because it's very hot out there.
Yeah, sweltering for everyone involved. Hot tyres going on as well, and that's going to be really the hard bit for the drivers. It's not taking too much out of this already very peaky Pirelli. Some drivers saying they can definitely only get 1 fast lap, so if you push too hard too early on, potentially that tyre going to drop off before you need it.
Now, in terms of pole positions this season, we've had in the single driver qualifying sessions, Rob Collard and Maxi Gertz taking a pole position each at Alton Park in GT3. Where it's been the longer races and you're combining the times, Charles Dawson and Cian Jewis got pole at Donington, Marvin Kirchhofer, Morgan Tilbrook at Silverstone, and Giacomo Petrobelli and Johnny Adam at Spa. Green flag is shown, and this is going to be for the GT3 cars, and this is the driver that will start race 1. We've got 2 one-hour races tomorrow. So the Honda NSX makes its way down the pit lane, and as the cars now have a chance to get a bit of warmth into the tyres and then do that 1 push lap. So it's going to be quite a long out lap, and that gives us a chance perhaps just to reflect on what happened at Spa a few weeks ago, where Johnny Adam finally put himself in the record books as the man who's won most British GT Championship races. Well, we can hear from Johnny right now because we can not only hear from him, but also say hello for the first time this weekend to Bryn Lucas down in the pit lane.
Yeah, very dripping Bryn Lucas as well. It's absolutely baking, as you've touched upon here. So hot in the pit lane. And a couple of things to mention. Marvin Kirchhofer was telling me that he thinks it's the front engine cars, aka the Aston and the AMG as well, that are going to look very good out on track. Maybe even the Lambo, but it's always looking good out on track, isn't it? A man who's going to be driving one of those front engine cars, as you say, is this man here, Johnny. Just been introducing you, or David was, about the man who got that overall number of victories, the 20 victories in GT3. How do you build from that this weekend?
Thinking of the championship, obviously it's quite a different layout Snetterton to how good we were at Spa, so it's not the best circuit for us, but at the same time we tested here last week, done a lot of work on prep for this weekend, and the car feels really good so far, but it's very close. Mercedes looks fast, so does the Lamborghinis, and McLaren's always there or thereabouts, so yeah, consistency. Race 1, we've got 10 seconds in the pits extra for tomorrow morning, and we just need to capitalise on what we've got.
At the start of the season, during the media day, you said that you were looking for the championship this time out, and the season started not the way you'd really like, but it has come back to you with 3 points separating the top 3.
Yeah, it wasn't the best start at Donington, but we also had the pace. It's just a case of getting consistency, and we've had consistency for the last 3 race weekends, shall we say. So it's the same goal plan this weekend, just 2 consistent races. This is important now, Giacomo's session and my one, because track position is important here, so let's see how we go.
We'll let you concentrate on what Giacomo's doing. Thanks, Johnny. Back to you, David.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Yeah, Johnny Adam, who has been a stalwart of the British GT Championship for many a season. He and Phil Keane were tied on, was it 19 wins? Well, now he's done the 20, and a big slide from Giacomo Petrobelli. Now, this is a proper push lap, so now we're starting to look at relevant sectors, relevant lap times.
Yeah, and Petrobelli's the man to beat because he's really laying down the gauntlet. It's only the 42 car of Dawson that's leaving a lap later than everyone else, so we'll keep an eye on them as Petrobelli breaks the sector 1 time, and it's not a bad one. We're looking at the quickest for the pros was a 33.3 in sector 1 earlier, so we're a second off that at the moment, and we're really seeing the AMs within 2 seconds of the pro time over this Snetterton lap though.
Right, so Giacomo Petrobelli, who is a familiar name in British circles. If you go back a long, long time, he started racing in Formula Palmer Audi. He drove in the early days of what was then called the Blancpain Endurance Series, went away, carried on building up his business, and has come back in the last few seasons. Had a tough year last year. It was a late deal in British GT. Sandy Mitchell looking on because he will share with Alex Martin. Alex Martin in 78 Lamborghini right now. And Giacomo Petrobelli then comes down towards the S's, comes through the left, through the right. He's managed to get himself pretty much clear track space all the way through this lap.
Yeah, they've done a good job there, haven't they, at Blackthorn. Just looking at Martin's sector, he did a purple sector 3 on his out lap. I actually think that's why Sandy Mitchell maybe isn't so happy. It was a quick sector as well, so maybe he's taken too much out of that tyre in Sandy Mitchell's opinion. Petrobelli very precise with the apex placement there, the big sausage curb. As soon as you touch that, the car lifts up and you lose a load of grip. He's pushing to the line now. I think pole needs to be a low 48 potentially for these AMs. 49.1 from Petrobelli.
Okay, let's see what Morgan Tilbrook can do in the McLaren. Personal best, personal best. Well, they would be. It's his first flying lap. Ideally, we want to be looking at purples, and Rob Collard, purple sector 1. That means an absolute best. So let's get the McLaren across the line. If it's a good last sector, it might work in his favour. Tilbrook comes up towards the timing line, and he slots in third then behind Petrobelli and Mark Smith, who got a stop-go penalty in the free practice session this morning for excessive track limit offences. This is Alex Martin. So let's see what he can do as Duncan Cameron's Ferrari goes second on a 149.5. So you've got Aston Martin, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin in the top 6. Rob Collard has done 2 absolute bests, and the sister car here of Alex Martin is heading up towards the beam. So where's he going to blend in? We'll find out in a moment, because as he now goes through, Alex Martin is fastest on a 148.395. This is Rob Collard. So Joe was predicting a low 148 for pole. A 48.3 is where we are. Is this going to be a 48.2? It is a 49.055. So Rob Collard 6/10ths down, and something went awry in the last sector there.
Yeah, all 6/10ths lost in that last sector. He was actually a 10th up, as we see Tilbrook off in the grass. Is at the exit of Palmer turn 3, potentially. Should be able to get it restarted.
Might be turn 5, sort of further around that infield. Kevin Say is the next one to keep an eye on. He is yet to do a lap. He wants to get this done. He doesn't want a red flag if that McLaren's off the track, because this is looking decent with a personal and an absolute best. They had a win at Alton Park, don't forget. Kevin Say and Maxi Goetz. Kevin Say breaks the beam, goes second then. A 148.613, 2/10ths is the margin now between the top 2.
Dawson's on a pretty good lap at the moment. He's in sector 2, be coming across the line of that middle sector in the next few seconds. He's one to look for, but at the moment, advantage Martin, 2/10ths of the second and a purple sector 1.
Rob Collard's lap disallowed for track limit offences. So Rob Collard has no lap time, and now he's got to go again, but the set of tyres that he's on will have lost their peak.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're seeing with the graphic there of Martin, a purple 1 and a not improvement of 2. He'll be trying to keep it together through here. Nice clean exit out, Autobahn hole round the long Corum. Look like Kevin Say potential. Dawson going slowly in front of him round Corum. It's Dawson, isn't it? He's setting up a lap. Martin should just about get round there, but a huge snap of oversteer. Even if Dawson wasn't in the way, it was a definite distraction.
Here he comes then up towards the line. So Alex Martin is already the fastest. Can he go quicker again? A 48.395, a 48.9. That's the answer. No, he can't. So that set of tyres look like they've done their best. Interesting, therefore, that Dawson has still only done a kind of start-up lap on a 153. He's bucking the trend of trying to go late in the 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just wonder if he did push and he either made a mistake or did a track limit and knew it. So rather than just finish the lap and lose it, take the time back, keep the tyre in a good place and then push again. Pushing hard is Kevin Say. There's his teammate Maxi Goetz looking on. He'll be happy at the moment, but look at that sector 2 from Petrobelli. That has come from nowhere. That Aston Martin firing up nicely.
Front engine cars, aren't they, here? And you've got the Mercedes with another snap of oversteer, like we saw from Alex Martin. Kevin Say, the man from Macau, fights the car up towards the timing line now then. This slight rise up towards the beam. So at the moment he's second, and he goes through, and he goes quickest on a 148.350. Kevin Say for provisional pole position, but Giacomo Petrobelli has another answer to this. 4th in the times, up towards the beam. Personal best, absolute best, pole position, and in doing so was slower than he had been in the last sector.
Middle sector was where all the time was. The team will be looking at the timing screens to make sure it was okay on track limits there, because that was a huge lap there.
So Aston Martin, Mercedes, Lamborghini, McLaren, Porsche, Nick Jones, 6th behind the Mark Smith McLaren, and Simon Orange's McLaren 4th. Slowest at the minute with no representative lap time, Charles Dawson. Rob Collard has gone 7th, but he'll be cross with that.
Yeah, Dawson may be slowest, but fastest middle sector, so he has finally woken up, and he needs to. Less than 1 minute and 50 seconds, so he'll squeeze one more lap after this one he's on if he needs it. He's getting a nice tow from Tilbrook, but the next lap I think he'll get held up by that 77 McLaren.
Right, Dawson goes by and goes quickest. Charles Dawson, 1:47.765. That's over a 10th quicker than Petrobelli. We thought that was a mega lap.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the pace and how many laps these tyres are lasting for. I think the driver's probably getting used to the conditions, so the tyre's dropping off, but they're finding more time than the tyre is losing.
Collard goes up to 7th then. Rob Collard, number 1 in the car that he shares with Hugo Cook. They were winners of the first race at Alton Park. There is Sandy Mitchell, Lamborghini factory driver, ready to get on board. Number 78 as 18 Mercedes AMG of Kevin Say wide at Coram. Has he backed out of this lap? No. It was a good first sector, but the middle sector was slower. I hesitate to say it's scrappy, but I don't think it's quite going to gel in the way that Kevin Say needs it to do. Here he comes up towards the timing line, and he goes through and stays 3rd, and that was a 48.9, so 0.6 down. This number 67 McLaren is 5th. Simon Orange at the wheel.
Yeah, highest placed McLaren at the moment, and Orange has been quick all day, hasn't he? He's still pushing on. This could be a lap to get closer to Martin as he crosses the line. It is an improvement, but he stays 3.5 tenths behind Alex Martin.
And up to 6th there is the Honda. So Johnny Ip, Chun Chun Gip, has just gone 6th fastest, make that 7th, because now Mark Smith's McLaren goes up to 4th. So late session, the times can still change. This is the fastest car, and Charles Dawson has done an absolute best sector 1, but he's down in sector 2, look.
Yeah, is he calling to go for one more push, which he doesn't have time for? So this is it. I think he'll box this lap and try and get the 2C's team a bit more time to hand over to his teammate Jewis.
Let's see what happens. Andrew Howard's up to 11th in the other Aston. He's just done a 1:49.622. Out of 12 for the pit lane. Yes, this coming in is Charles Dawson then. But a good effort that to put him at the top of the times. They were winners, remember, at Donington, he and Cian Jewis, and they took maximum points at Silverstone because Darren Lung and Dan Harper weren't registered. They were just guests. That was Cian Jewis getting himself ready. No pressure then. Teammates put it onto pole for his session. What can you do? Collard 4th. Rob Collard can go 4th. That's what he can do. So a good end of the session for the number 1 Lamborghini.
Yeah, and he lost that lap early on, but Collard recovers well. Dawson happy with that. Remember, they're carrying 25 kilos more than any other Mercedes on the grid because of Dawson's speed. As we go back to Orange, he's now down in 7th position. He's got 2 green sectors and actually very, very strong sectors. The car will just be praying it can hang on around this Coram corner, the front left, screaming for more. And this is where we've seen the big snap of oversteer as they come into the last corner. So far, so good, and gets a good drive out the last corner, clean on track limits as well.
Yeah, so 2 personal best sectors on this lap for Simon Orange as he heads up towards the timing line. So the McLaren is 7th. He breaks the beam and it's up to 3rd. So that was a 1:48.248. Really good effort by Simon Orange. So you've got Mercedes AMG from Aston Martin, from McLaren, from Mercedes, from Lamborghini, from McLaren. No, you haven't, because that lap has just been disallowed for Simon Orange. He's back down to 7th.
Oh, it's brutal, isn't it? He would have been over the moon. The team at JMH would have been as well. But track limits, always hot here at Snetterton, purely on the amount of sensors in place. But there is our 2nd place car at the time. That lap was stonking from Petrobelli, but Dawson going out that bit later, was that better for him? He could see where the gauntlet had been laid down to. I think Petrobelli will go, that was such a good lap. I can't believe I'm not on pole position.
And that gives you the leading 7 within a second of each other, which around 3 miles is not bad going, especially given that we're talking of, in quotes, AMs here. That kind of does them a disservice. I mean, these are not hopeless drivers by any means. They might be amateurs in terms of running businesses, but they're still very good GT drivers.
Yeah, look at some of the gaps, Kevin Say to Collard 100th, and you go further back to Cameron and Tilbrook 1,000th between those 2 cars. I feel for Tilbrook, he looked strong at the start, had that sprint in the out of Hamilton that we saw. They focus so much on Marvin Kershaw and new tyre runs on the Friday. I think that's hurt Tilbrook there.
Well, let's have a look at the order then. In the Pro-Am part of GT3, Charles Dawson is fastest, and in Silver Am, it is Johnny Ip in the Honda NSX, and he was 8th overall. Those are the 2 different class pole winners. But Charles Dawson is fastest in GT3 for race 1, ahead of Giacomo Petrobelli and then Kevin Say. Rob Collard 4th, ahead of Mark Smith. Alex Martin 6th, then Simon Orange from Johnny Ip. Nick Jones Porsche only 9th, ahead of Morgan Tilbrook. Duncan Cameron's Ferrari disappointing only 11th, ahead of Andrew Howard. And newcomer for the weekend at Optimum Motorsport, Carl Cavers, who's been in Carrera Cup GB this year. He is 13th, still learning about a brand new race car. So the fast lane is open for the GT3 field ready for Q2. This will be a different driver, same cars, but now we're looking at a grid for the second of tomorrow's 1 hour races. But a provisional second pole position of the season for Charles Dawson, having shared one with Cian Jewis at Donington at the very start of the season. So now the second driver on board. Pit lane will be open soon. And Marvin Kirchhofer, having been an absolute star at Spa, both in terms of British GT and GT World Challenge Europe. Slightly flatter racetrack here, but we know that he's an absolute weapon, Marvin Kirchhofer, one to watch.
Yeah, really is, and has been on a phenomenal run of form. And like I said, they really do focus on Marvin. He gets quite a lot of new sets of tyres on the Friday to get his eye in, make sure the car is in place. The Optimum team there still waiting to find a gap. As you can see, Plowman followed by Bridger, and then a very slow leading number 3 McLaren of Callum McLeod. Yeah, exactly.
In the pre-qualifying session earlier on in the day, Maxi Goertz, number 18 Mercedes AMG, was the fastest, a 1:47.006. So he is the one to keep an eye on with all of his experience. That's Martin Plowman there, taking over from Mark Smith. Mark's been a winner of late in the GT Cup, getting more mileage. And now Johnny Adam takes over from Giacomo Petrobelli. He's installed in the car and pouring out on track very shortly. He will join the rest. There is Matt Griffin, who is always one to watch in the Ferrari. He's a Ferrari specialist, on board with Matt Griffin now, who accelerates out of the pit lane down towards Riches.
Gives you an illustration of how brutal the vibrations are in these cars, the engines. Very little amount of bushes, rubber bushes, so you feel all those vibrations as a driver. Another set of Pirellis going on, so Johnny will get out there. They're a bit slower to leave, aren't they? Already 8 minutes and 50 seconds are remaining. The session goes so quickly, but these pros use the tyre harder than the AM, so expect to see less fast laps towards the end of the session.
Car pushed back, road is clear, and Johnny Adam accelerates away. So the benefit of that is hopefully you've let the traffic go. The downside is that what you don't want is to be starting a fast lap as others are backing off theirs and getting slow traffic in your way.
Yeah, because the onus is really on you not to block, so then you have to go off the racing line where it's dirty and you can pick up some marbles, and then you've got to try and clean the tyre back, which is the opposite of what you need. Kirchhofer here in a good gap at the moment. He's only got Tom Wood just behind him, so he'll be happy with that. And again, the team will just be communicating gap in front, 14 seconds, car behind 4, and then, as a driver, it's then up to you to decide where you put the pace of the car on this outlap.
Right, so Marvin Kirchhofer in the Optimum Motorsport McLaren coming down towards the long right of Coram Curve, speed building. He'll get to turn 12, pull the pin and go onto a push lap. And let's see whether or not this is going to be a pole position for him. He was on pole at Silverstone, along with the efforts of Morgan Tilbrook. When you combine the times, here he comes then, ready to start a flying lap. Behind is Tom Wood in the Andrew Howard Beechstein Aston Martin. So Marvin Kirchhofer then starts a flying lap. This will be the benchmark lap, if you like, as he heads now into the right of Riches.
Yeah, it looks so soft, that Optimum car. You can really see it roll and pitch, and be interesting to see how they look off their tyres in the race.
Right, Charles Dawson in the meantime can celebrate pole for race 1. Let's hear from him with Bryn.
Big puff of the cheeks as you went there, because this is exactly what you needed to get the championship back on track.
Yeah, it was. It's been a couple of races for various reasons, and yeah, just really happy to be back out in front, especially here somewhere at Snetterton where overtaking is really hard. So we really need to be on that front row for race 1, and the Mercs working so well in these hot conditions, and tyres, and so yeah, just all seemed to click.
Go and cool off. Well done.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Good effort by Charles Dawson. Cian Jewis is now aboard that car. There it is. And he's heading up towards Coram. Now, we know that Cian is a quick driver, Carrera Cup GB champion. He was a very rapid single-seater racer as well, got as far as GB3. Kevin Say is watching the sister car in that team, now being driven by Maxi Goertz. And Cian Jewis, then British F4 champion, only really had one race weekend last year. He did a Le Mans Cup event with Darren Malkin, but found a happy home in British GT this year. Callum McLeod, always rapid, heading up towards the timing line, former Formula Ford champion. And Sven Muller in the Porsche. Well, factory driver Sven Muller in a Porsche, one to watch, but he's never been here before.
Yeah, it's a strange track to learn. It's, as you said earlier, very flat, and the flow of the circuit just never gets going. It's a fast corner, always followed by a slow, and that repeats for the 3 miles of it. Great lap from Callum McLeod there. Very strong middle sector, even compared to his teammate Marvin Kirchhofer. Sven Muller with a strong middle sector there. You can see it's purple. Porsche looking well poised over the curb. Slight snap of oversteer as he came off that curb. Now through the bomb hole, you can see the car load up. You'll see cars running wide there, and they won't get a track limit warning because there isn't a sensor. And this is where the drivers have to know the circuit, the nuances of this Norfolk venue.
Right, so let's see what he can offer up. Callum McLeod has done a 1:46.7. Marcus Klassen a 47.005. So we need Sven Muller in the mid-46s then now as he comes up to the beam and he goes through and he does a 46.0 to go fastest. That's 0.7 of a second quicker than anybody else. Sven Muller, 1:46.022. Great lap.
Yeah, Marvin Kirchhofer saying, I think that was a track limit there. The sensor would have picked him up on the exit of turn 1. We spoke about Kirchhofer saying it needs to be a front engine. Well, the Porsche couldn't have the engine further from the front, of course. So it's very strong in sector 2. The traction of that car strong. Kirchhofer doesn't seem to be able to place that car as well as it has been on the last couple of rounds in that. Is that something the tyre pressures are still coming in, or is this a plan from Optimum?
Hugo Cook, who's taken over from Rob Collard, has had a lap taken off him because of track limits at turn 5, which is heading up towards Hamilton. So this is Kirchhofer, and he's heading into the S's. Now, so far, it is a personal best. Sandy Mitchell has now gone fastest, 1:45.748. So demonstrably the best lap of the day, and that is, we thought Muller's lap was good. That's a further 0.2 quicker.
Yeah, this lap at the moment from Kirchhofer is going to either be half a tenth in front or behind Muller, I think, as McLeod now goes back up to third with the second flying lap for that car.
Right, so you've got Marcus Klassen looking good as well with an absolute best in Sector 1. Here comes Marvin Kirchhofer then for his first proper flying lap, if you like, and he will break the beam to go second. And that misses out on pole by 0.186 of a second. This now, number 67 McLaren, is Marcus Klassen, the man from Oldham, pushing on, heading up towards the timing line. There's another lap that's been disallowed. It's Kean Jewis, in fact, number 42 Mercedes, the Charles Dawson car, if you like. Orange car, and now Clapton at the wheel. Simon Orange did stint 1. Marcus Clapton goes across the line third. That was a 1:45.980, 46,000 shy of Kirchhofer.
Yeah, we're looking Johnny Adam coming under the bridge now. He's down in 7th place at the moment. 2 personal best sectors, just over a tenth off the fastest lap of Sandy Mitchell at the moment. So if he was to continue in this vein, he would go second, just in front of Kirchhofer. But the Aston was very, very strong in that middle sector, but lacked in this sector with Petrobelli. Was that driver or was that car themed? We'll find out in about 10 seconds' time.
Well, up to the end of the sector comes Johnny Adam, as now Hugo Cook puts number 1 Lamborghini 8th. Having lost an earlier lap for track limit abuses. Here comes Johnny Adam then. Needs something in the 45s, and he gets a 45.9 to go third fastest then, 1:45.975.
Yeah, just 400ths behind Kirchhofer, but that sector was 0.3 off the ultimate fastest done so far by a Mercedes. So Aston Martin not so happy. Someone that is happy, look at that sector 1, nearly 0.2 quicker than anybody else. Can Marcus Klassen keep that going and get Marvin Kirchhofer, who's currently the fastest McLaren, in third?
Maxi Goetz, though, has now gone fastest of all on a 1:45.703, 45 thousandths up. So Marcus Klassen down to 5th. He might be able to respond, should be able to respond, barring any dramas in the last sector as he comes out of bomb hole up towards Coram now through that long right. So Maxi Goetz, quickest in pre-qualifying, quickest again right now. No, he's not. Marvin Kirchhofer goes even faster by 0.2 of a second, a 1:45.439. Here is Marcus Klassen up towards the line. So you've got Kirchhofer from Goetz, Mitchell from Adam, and Marcus Klassen goes through now and is 4th, makes 1 place gain.
Yeah, it was the sector 3 of Kirchhofer that got him pole fastest in that sector, and he was 0.3 quicker than Clutton in that one sector, and Clutton only 0.4 off, so it shows you how close it is. Another close one here. Sandy Mitchell seems to be the master of keeping these Pirellis alive in qualifying. We've seen it so many times where everyone else is fading. He can pop a lap in, and he'll need that now. He's on his 4th flying lap. He crosses the line now, and he goes third still.
Yeah, that lap was a 45.705, so it was better, but it wasn't an improved position. So this is Maxi Gertz, second fastest now, quickest earlier on in the day. He's got to find .265 to go quickest by 1,000th, and it's an absolute best followed by a personal best, and it's got to be a good last sector. The time he's aiming for is a 45.439. Maxi Gertz up to the timing line, goes through, and he goes quickest, 45.2. Smiles at the team. Kevin Say is happy. And that's 0.157 of a second up on anybody else. And while all that's been going on, Cian Dewis on the other side of the garage, if you like, in number 42 Mercedes, he is fourth, 1:45.845.
Yeah, good showing from 2Cs so far, and that was the right celebration there from Kevin Say, because you're happy with pole, but you know the session is still live, so you don't want to celebrate too early. Kirchhofer doesn't look like he's pushing too hard, as he's just done a cool sector 3, and he's ramping up for another push lap now. You can see that gap to Tom Wood's closed up, so this will be a slow lap, and he's got time for one more push.
Yeah, with 20 seconds on the clock, but he can go again. So Marvin Kirchhofer goes by. That lap was in the 48, so over 3 seconds off the earlier pace. Maxi Gertz then is the fastest, as at Optimum they watch on. This is Sandy Mitchell, third in the times now, and could be on for an improvement here with 2 personal bests. He needs to find just over 2/10 to get ahead of Kirchhofer, and really half a second to get ahead of Gertz. And I can't see half a second in these sectors, but here he comes down to turn 12. The car flicks through, accelerating now up towards the timing line, and with, on this lap, Maxi Gertz slower in sector 1 and an absolute best sector 2. Sandy Mitchell breaks the beam and stays third, a 1:45.460. So again, a better lap, but not moving the position of the car.
No, it narrows the gap, less than 2/10 off pole now. Got still pushing. Does he need to? I can't see anyone else taking pole position off him at the moment as the 18 2Cs car pushes to the line. He'll finish the lap just in case his fastest one gets taken away for track limits, for example, at a later time. He might as well finish it. Does he improve the lap time? He does, ever so slightly.
I think he equaled it, didn't he?
I was going to say, because
to the 1,000th, he's equaled it, a 1:45.282.
Because the gap has stayed the same to Sandy Mitchell that I was looking at 30 seconds ago, but it is a purple last lap, so it...
He has done 5 laps, and his last lap was a 45.282, but his best, as you see Callum McLeod off the road, was the same lap time, but on lap 4, so he's equalled his lap time to the 1,000th.
I've never seen that. That's German efficiency to the floor. Mercedes and a German driver, as Callum McLeod fills that car full of grass. No problem, get out of the way. Well at Tom Wood and go straight to pit lane.
If it hadn't been so dry, it would have been camouflage, because that grass would have been green. As it is, it's a sort of faded yellowy brown. Tom Wood comes up to the line. He will stay 11th in the Aston Martin. And 4th, Marcus Klassen, right at the very end. He improves. But never say Maxi Gertz is not consistent. To match a lap time to the 1,000th, that's impressive. This is how Callum McLeod went off the road when he picks up a floppy marker that's been dropped.
I think it was a mixture of distraction, dirt, and then the bollard has actually lifted the splitter up and not allowed the car to pitch in. So whoever hit that bollard out of the way won't be on Callum McLeod's Christmas card list this year. And luckily, so much runoff there, but still, these expensive carbon fibre cars do not like grass tracking.
They do not. And 9th in the end for Callum McLeod.
He started strong as well, didn't he? I think Optimum did a split strategy there. I feel like this car had its tyres ready to go early on in the session, whereas Kirchhofer's car seemed to last a bit longer and could do it later on. So it'll be interesting to maybe hear from those 2 drivers at some point. Was that intentional, or was that just how the session ran?
So the car put away, and Kevin Say will congratulate his co-driver Maxi Gertz. They were winners at Alton Park, and as you've been hearing, it's not that easy to overtake around here. Number 42 of Cian Dewis, I think I told you had lost a lap time. He ends up 5th, and the order at the end of Q2, this is the race to grid, sees a silver AM pole for Tom Wood and a pro AM pole for Maximilian Gertz. So again, front engine cars looking strong. Maxi Gertz then fastest by 0.157 of a second from Marvin Kirchhofer. Sandy Mitchell 3rd ahead of Marcus Klassen and Cian Dewis, with Johnny Adams 6th. Sven Muller, who looked like a hero early on, only 7th in the end, ahead of Hugo Cook and then Callum McLeod, with Martin Plowman's McLaren 10th. Then Tom Wood ahead of Matt Griffin and the Honda of Jay Bridger, taking over not only team ownership duties, but driving duties as well. At the foot of the times. Remember, they were on the podium in that wet race at Alton Park at the end of May. So, GT3 work done for the moment. GT4 will take up attention next. The fast lane is open for the GT4 drivers to make their way out to the end of the pit lane, ready to be released onto the circuit. So same principle, one driver, one session, slightly slower by way of a lap time, but the GT4 fight no less intense.
Yeah, 9 seconds slower around here at Snetterton. Interesting, that was a fast quali. It was 1.8 seconds quicker than pre-quali. A lot of teams in pre-quali did use new tyres as a quali sim. So the track temp slightly lower than that pre-quali, but the drivers really, I think, pulling it out there. It was a super competitive session.
There's number 71 BMW that won at Spa, Ravi Ramyud and Charlie Robertson's car. Mark Warren, he's already out on track, having had 3 wins this year. Mark Warren with Jack Brown. They won at Donington, they won at Alton Park in both, but were out of luck at Spa. The BMWs are set to go. The green flag has been waved, so the session is live, but the SRO Motorsports squad deciding to release the cars in isolation. 88 there, the Ginetta of Mahiki Racing. Yes, they have continued with Ginetta. The Lotus program that was being run at the start of the year now is a Ginetta program. And the Lotuses seem to have pace, but just reliability seemed to go awry.
Yeah, exactly. And Mahiki now very happy with those 3 Ginettas. And they were very fast at Spa as well, weren't they? So they'll be hoping for a better race result, I think, this weekend.
Well, we heard from Charles Dawson celebrating a pole position. Maxi Gertz can do the same for race 2. He's with Bryn.
Well, Maxi, as you drove into the pit lane there, you saw Kevin giving you the one finger, the good finger.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a great lap, great car, great teamwork. We've been testing it last week. It paid off for sure. The hard work we had the last 2 days and also last week. So it's great to be on pole on such a difficult and nice track. It's my 2nd pole this year, so it means we have a good package. And yeah, tomorrow it's time for getting some points, some trophies. So we have a good base set now today, and P4 and P1, it's not too bad.
It's very, very good. And as you mentioned, getting points and some trophies, points are going to be crucial to you because you are some way off the top spot at the moment.
Yeah, we didn't got points in Spa. It was unlucky, a shit weekend for us, to be honest. So we need to fight back tomorrow, and I think we have all the tools and good starting positions now for tomorrow.
We wish you the very best. Thanks, Maxi.
Thank you, guys.
Maxi Gertz, all smiles, and this was the car working its way down through that old S's, now Brundle and Nelson. But the Mercedes AMG, a car that seems to be suited to almost every venue.
Yeah, it does well everywhere, doesn't it? Its main strength is stability. It's very good at curb strikes as well, which I think we're going to get a nice illustration here of the slow-mo. You see it hop on the curb, take a set, and then land. And that just allows the driver to really manipulate the racing line. As we go back to GT4, and here is Mark Warren, very, very quick bronze. Some of the silvers struggling to match his pace, and he's really helped Jack Brown move forward as well, I think, moving from a silver entry that Jack's been in for the last few years into this Pro-Am, and a very slow-moving car. I think that could be the sister Optimum car just fully getting out the way. I hope it's not a problem.
Yeah, Mark Warren, when he first raced here in Porsches in the Cayman Sprint Challenge, was in the AM class and won outright in 2 of the 3 races. I mean, he was just straight away massively impressive. And that was, what, 2 years ago, and has been a really good GT4 racer straight away, 3 times a winner this year. And it will be a surprise, I think, if he were not on pole position. Now, that's not to say that he's going to dominate, because people like Ravi Ramyud have proved to be quick this year, so too Brandon Templeton, but this has got to start as a favourite.
Yeah, definitely. And in the pit stop, having less time to serve as well, 14 seconds less than those silvers. The race comes to them as well, even more so if there's a safety car. And that's the beauty of British GT. Not only is it multi-class, you've got subclasses within GT4, and it gives us 2 races for the price of 1 in GT4.
So Mark Warren bouncing over the curb. That was a really big strike of that sausage curb. Didn't do enough to sort of launch the car, but it certainly unsettled it. He's able to combat that. Goes a little bit twitchily maybe through bomb hole, and up towards the end of the lap. He's doing absolute best. It's a lap on which you've got nothing else to judge it by as yet. Others behind getting into the groove, but as long as he's doing purples, then he ought to be on for provisional pole position. Slightly slower cars, and again, only the 10 minutes, so you've got a finite number of laps to squeeze into this.
Yeah, I think pole's going to be a mid-55 overall, so maybe a bit slower there. 56.1 from Mark Warren, and I can see where the time is. Look as he hits this curb. When the tyre isn't in contact, you're not able to get grip from it, unsurprisingly, and so that will just lose it. And even the outside tyre deflection there, relatively scary. Then we had a slide around the next corner at bomb hole, so commitment was there if precision wasn't quite perfect.
Meanwhile, this is the BMW of Ravi Ramyud. So the car that he shares with Charlie Robertson, Ravi Ramyeed, who raced in the production BMW for the original 3 Series cars a few years ago, had a few years out, and then came back racing in the Ginetta GT Academy, was runner-up in that. British GT race winner last year in the GT4 class, also drove in the GT4 Winter Series, the Iberian Series. So he's been doing lots of mileage pre-season. That big crash at Alton Park derailed them because, of course, they didn't score in that race and couldn't take part in the second later on in the day. But that's a lap time good enough to be second. But the margin of 1.4 seconds is quite a big one.
Yeah, especially with a car that most of the paddock are saying is strong at the moment, the BMW. Just externally, the balance there, amazing car control. The balance there looked quite good, I was about to say. Luckily, Ravi did that before I made myself look like an idiot. But the unfortunate nature there, he would have got the track limit sensor as well. But great car control. It's actually the sister car that we're looking at the moment of Hopkinson that's fastest in Sector 1. Warren has got some time to find, and he does find it in Sector 2. This is where we saw him clout the curb last lap. Was that a mistake or intentional? It was a mistake, and that looks much, much better from Mark Warren.
As now, up to the top of the times goes Josh Miller in number 84 Ginetta, the Mahiki racing car, 1 minute 56.0. So Luca Hopkinson at the wheel of number 17 McLaren, the Optimum car, number 90 out of the same stable, Mark Warren. Quite a lot to look for here in terms of who might take pole position. Mark Warren's going to have another red-hot go coming out of turn 12, heading up towards the timing line now. Let's see what he can do when he breaks the beam. And as he is looking to something in the high 155s now, the answer is that he can do a 55.6. Good effort.
Really good lap. Hopkinson, what can he do? He's going to be crossing the line in 3 seconds' time. It's going to be a 55.4, maybe a couple of tenths up the road on the sister car. It is a 55.4, nearly 3 tenths faster. He loses that lap immediately to track limits, though.
Absolutely right. So a wasted effort. It would have been good, but there, kicks up the dirt, goes wide at turn 1. And the danger is now that if you lose 1 lap, you kind of overdrive, you get a bit stressed.
And it was turn 1, he lost the previous lap as well, and it was marginal. And we talk about these sensors, there's a pressure pad on the exit of these corners. You might just catch it on the exit curb. It's a strip that runs perpendicular to the circuit. You can see Harry George getting ready, driver coach Charlie Fagg there as well, trying to help these drivers get up there. And here's Josh Miller, he's on a good lap here, less than half a tenth off the fastest thus far in that.
Yeah, 2 personal bests as he comes then up towards the right-hander bomb hole. So Mahiki Racing, it's quite a bold step. You've got a 3-car team to park 3 cars, but there, getting caught up in traffic, really committed was Josh Miller, and it all goes wrong for him. He has a big, big moment on the grass. That's going to go around if he's not careful. The lap is wasted. The tyres are going to be very bad condition after that as well, and he was lucky to not actually hit anything solid, but that very quickly all unravelled for him, having looked like it could have been, should have been a good lap.
Yeah, and it was just the jolt McLaren, wasn't it? He had to do the move. I got the reason for that, but it was just too aggressive. And he's trying to think he'd get out the way of the 88 car, who's on a lap, but he's destroyed 2 laps for the price of 1, like you said, because of where he's gone off. Hopkinson, great Sector 1. Sector 2 dropped away. Doesn't look like it was traffic affected. Is that the tyre? These GT4s work the tyre harder than the GT3s because they are heavier. The tyre is skinnier, less aerodynamic, so the tyre doesn't hold on quite as long as it does in GT3.
But whatever he does on this lap has got to count for something, because he does not yet have a lap time, having had his earlier good one taken off him for exceeding track limits. So let's see what he can do here. Look at Hopkinson, out of the 9 in GT4, is currently the 9th with no lap time. He needs a lap time here, and as he heads up towards the line now, he goes quickest of all, a 1:54.989. 7 tenths of a second faster than anybody else, and that was with a slightly subdued middle sector.
That was a stonking lap. He lost 4 tenths in the middle sector, so his Sector 1 and 3 was so strong to get him into the 54s. That is a mega, mega lap, and I'm surprised they're not more excited. Century won't like us seeing all their telemetry there as Charlie Robson looks on. Ravi Ramyeed currently 5th place at the moment, 2nd in the Pro-Am class. We saw that big slide earlier on, round turn 1. Balance looking better at the moment, but again, looks like his middle sector, like Hopkinson, not particularly strong at the moment.
69 Ginetta is Stephen Lake, and this car currently is 6th fastest, but this lap has been wasted because of a spin, I'm afraid, coming out of Agostini. So around goes the man behind the Mahiki team, Stephen Lake, rejoins. But another one off, I'm afraid, is John Curry, and he's clanged the barrier front and back in the number 30 Team Parker Racing Mercedes AMG, and I fear this could be a red flag, because look at the debris on the road. That's been quite a moment for him.
Yeah, I don't think it can be anything but a red. I'm not sure he'll be able to drive away, and that's difficult now, isn't it, for Josh Miller, who lost that lap before because of a mistake, and then this one he's on in third place. It's not a disaster for him, and the red flag is shown.
But that's not going to be resumed, is it? With 34 seconds on the clock, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. Too much. This is what we're starting to see more and more in modern motorsport, is the driver has a fear of a track limit sensor and does everything to avoid it. And I think that's what Curry's done there. He's kept the lock on because he doesn't want a track limit, but the car wants to rotate, and it does on him, and it ultimately sends him in the barrier. And he was just, I think, petrified of touching the track limit sensor, losing a lap, and ultimately he lost more than a lap.
So damage to the front and to the back, and damage to other people's lap times, if you like, because the session had 34 seconds in it and it will not resume. So qualifying part 1 for GT4 is done. Mark Warren ends up second fastest. There's number 69, Stephen Lake. He will be fifth. Number 17, Luca Hopkinson, takes pole position. And that's his first GT4 pole of the season. So a very good effort by Luca Hopkinson by 0.704 of a second.
Dominant as well, dominant optimum. It's 1 and 2 and first in their respective classes, Silver versus Pro-Am. But yeah, if he'd hooked up his middle sector, I think it could have been a second clear, as we see John Curry out the car, all okay, and a fair bit of damage, but that wouldn't have been the biggest impact. So hopefully the Team Parker guys have got enough spares to get that car repaired so him and Phil King can get out in the races tomorrow.
An overcooked Curry, I'm afraid to say. Seventh fastest in the times, a 1:58.050 was the best lap time. The teams quickly go to work because they need to get the next driver in and ready for the final 10 minutes of qualifying. But the delay now is going to be in moving that car, sweeping the debris, and also making sure the barrier is still standing up, because it was quite a whack.
Yeah, and again, we said these cars are heavy, 1,500 kilos, that Mercedes GT4. And so a fair amount of inertia, and I'm sure with the soil being so dry as well, the barrier posts probably have got a bit more movement in them. But luckily there, they can actually access the circuit from the infield as well. So hopefully they can prop that up and make us good for this last qualifying session of the day.
Good news is John Curry is okay. He's out of the car. It was a relatively light impact, although it's certainly done some damage, as we've seen. Lots of congratulations there for Luca Hopkinson. He's had a tough season, so that'll be a good result, and the Optimum team happy with that as the marshals await the recovery vehicle. The last few cars head to the pit lane. Charlie Robertson has got to be a candidate for a pole position as the Scottish driver goes to relieve Ravi Ramyeed of driving duties at 71, and of course victorious at Spa as well last time out. So then, in the Pro-Am part of GT4, Mark Warren is fastest. In the Silvers, it is Luca Hopkinson aboard number 17 McLaren. But either way you cut it, the Optimum McLaren's taking a dominant 1-2. Luca Hopkinson ahead of Mark Warren by 7/10 of a second. Josh Miller's Ginetta third. Brandon Templeton, Century Motorsport BMW, fourth ahead of the sister car of Ravi Ramyeed, and the spinning Stephen Lake sixth for Mahiki in the Ginetta. John Curry, before he clanged the Armco, seventh ahead of Ian Duggan, and then Rupert Williams is ninth in the returning Jolt Racing McLaren. So teams cycle the next driver through, but as I say, we need to make the track clear and safe first of all. That gives us a chance to hear from a no doubt very happy Luca Hopkinson, because he is the fastest in Q1, therefore he is on GT4 pole. He's with Bryn.
Well, Luca, it seems like the plaudits have always gone to the other side of the garage with Mark and Jack, but you as putting it on P1, it's a good marker for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's super positive to enter the weekend like this. Hopefully take some points away from the BMW to let these guys get the championship, because I feel like we're out of the fight now, but it'd be nice to secure second and take the points away from the BMW.
The margin, 7/10, is a decent margin over what Mark did there. We saw that Mark took a bit of curb early on and managed to change it a little bit later. Are you going to be able to do more over the course of the championship to hunt them down, or are you looking for a P2 and making it a team effort?
I mean, we're obviously hoping for a win in the championship, but I feel like we've got to be realistic and realise that P2 is probably what we can do if they don't keep the form up, if they keep the form up how they have. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know the gap would be that big. It felt like just a normal lap to me.
And of course, the red flag came out, which meant there was an end of the session, which prevented Mark from putting another one down there, though. But we know Snetterton is hard to overtake, and I was talking to Harry a little bit earlier on, your teammate, and he was telling me that the car is pretty tricky out here, it's sliding around a fair bit.
I mean, I feel like that's the same for everyone, though. It's so hot, the tyres are going off so quickly. If you slide them once, then the tyres essentially gone. So I feel like it's going to be a struggle in the race to just keep it clean.
keep it clean, that's always the aim, but can you keep it clean?
I'm going to try my best.
For you in the championship, then, you look at this one, as you mentioned, you're some way off the overall lead, but there are 4 rounds to go, and stranger things have happened.
I mean, yeah, it's up in the air at the moment. We obviously want to win it, but we've got to be realistic at the same time.
So how do you approach tomorrow then, with the temperatures the way they're going to be, the track the way it's going to be, and now we know that the grid for race 1 the way it's going to be? How are you going to approach that? Of course, you have a bit of a debrief now.
Just try get a gap from the start and not overdrive, keep it clean, not sliding the tyres, just keeping it in a decent window to give it to Harry, and hopefully he can do a good job.
Which you make sound so easy.
It's not going to be easy, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy.
Well, look, we're going to keep our eyes on it there, and the championship is always the game, but getting some podiums along the way, that's going to be crucial.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, hopefully get some wins as well, and then see where we are in the championship come the final run, and hopefully win it. I'm not sure.
Joe Osborne, our co-commentator, has been giving us a bit of an idea of what it's like in the car in these sorts of conditions out on a track like this. But what is it like for you in these temperatures? It's reaching, what, 40, 45 degrees inside the cockpit?
I mean, yeah, at Spa I was absolutely screwed. I could barely even walk after, but I thought we were going to be fine. We've got an aircon unit in the car, so we won't struggle as bad in the heat as we did at Spa.
Have you got any tricks to stay cool?
Drink some water, drink a lot of water, and just hopefully just sweat.
What about the air conditioning inside the car then? We talk about aircon. How much power, do you know how much power that's taking from the car, what the compromise happens to be?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it makes a big difference, to be fair.
But you keep it at a trickle?
Pardon?
Keep it at a trickle?
Yeah, that's the one.
Look, we wish you all the very best tomorrow as well. What can Harry do approaching this? What have you told him between now and him going out on track for his qualifying session?
To just back himself, be confident. The track's as good as it always is. The car's as good as it always is, and just do what you can.
You make it all sound so easy, you guys. Just back yourself, Harry. That's all you've got to do. Well done.
Yep, cheers, thank you.
So good effort by Luca Hopkinson in the first part of qualifying. Good to hear from him. And the super slow-mo of the McLaren. Right, marker set down, very definitely, as that is the car to beat seemingly right now. This is the Optima one that's had a lot of bad luck this year, so maybe now we're starting to see that being turned around. And there is the car coming out of the S's, avoiding the curb as well, crucially.
Yeah, my worry there is when you see the rear left, the tyre deflection through the tyre wall is brutal, so they'll need to keep the tyre pressures up nice and high on that car.
So let's look at the highlights of the first part of GT4 qualifying, truncated as we saw with that red flag. Everybody pouring out on circuit, and Ravi Ramyud quick early on, but he then had a big slide going through turn 1, was able to save it, as Mark Warren initially was the fastest, and looking as though pole position may well have been his, but it wasn't to be. Then we had this big drama, the 84 Ginetta of Josh Miller squeezing up the inside of traffic. He had to make the move, but then he lost traction and had a big wild ride all the way across the grass. And Stephen Lake, in the other Mahiki Ginetta, had his own dramas. He had a spin coming up out of turn 4. And then John Curry looped the Mercedes AMG, and that was a red flag with not only damaged car now by the side of the road, but a lot of debris on the track as well. So Luca Hopkinson took pole position, his first of the season in the Optima Motorsport McLaren. So we're ready then for the final part of qualifying, which is about 3 minutes away, close enough. The race director, Peter Daly, making sure that the debris has been swept away, that the barrier is all right, and then he's happy to release the cars. So time for 1 or 2 adjustments, maybe if required, and then cars can go back on track. And different drivers, but the same cars, of course. Similar principle to what we saw in GT3. So new set of Pirelli tyres going on for Jack Brown, who again is going to start as one of the favourites here. Yeah,
I think Jack Brown, Robertson that you mentioned earlier in the Century BMW. I think Jack Mitchell as well in the Mahiki Ginetta. I think they're the 3 standout ones so far this weekend. Cars slightly lighter on fuel as well, but I'm surprised Hopkinson wasn't backing himself a bit more. Can see the Mercedes getting lifted up still at the moment, so we should be restarting in 1 minute and 10, but I think that's going to be later. But a lot of the teams already committed to the fast lane, and yes, it's warm, but the tyres will be seeping temperature. They want to be at 80, 90 degrees centigrade, so if they're only at 30 air, then that will be a negative. Century have done well here to wait and not blink, because that Mercedes, to me, I think we're still 3 or 4 minutes away from going green on this one if all goes well with the recovery of that Mercedes.
Yeah, it's heading to the flatbed, isn't it? Then it's got to get off the circuit. The flatbed's got to be parked as well. So the estimated restart time has now gone from the screen because we are half a minute away from that. And it's not going to be quite as prompt as the race director was hoping. There, number 14, Brandon Templeton and Chris Salkeld's BMW. It's going to be Chris Salkeld for this part of qualifying. BMW then ready to go. But they'll put the wheels on with the tyres on at the last possible moment, drop the car down. That means we can go back to the pit lane just while we're waiting. Mark Warren was second in that first part of GT4 qualifying. Why don't we hear from him? Bryn has managed to find him from out of the garage. Let's get back to the pits.
Mark, you have a healthy lead in the championship, but the leads can come down, and a 7/10 margin as well. Where did you lose that time?
I've no idea. I haven't seen what. I can't imagine where it came because I felt like I was absolutely flat. So I'm sure it's probably a little bit everywhere around the whole lap. I mean, that was by far the best lap I've done. So
I mean, I'm no driver coach, but everywhere around the entire lap doesn't sound great to me. But little areas that you can improve upon, though. Do you share data across the garage?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we've been working really well with the boys in the other car over the last couple of days because, frankly, we've been struggling a little bit for pace the last few races. So the team as a whole has done a fantastic job to get us where we are because we're sharing the data and just trying to understand how the car and the pressures are affected by the temperatures and the track temperatures we've been really sensitive to. So I think we've done a good job in learning lots between the two cars.
And in the car at the moment, you've got your more slender Jack at the moment. He seems to be getting thinner every time we see him at the moment, but he's in the car now. He's ready to go. Imagine between you, you're optimistic, but quietly optimistic.
Yeah. Yes, clearly. We haven't got any success penalty for race one, so clearly it'd be good for us if we can have a good race one and then, see what happens in race two. So that's the plan and we'll see what happens. But obviously having the two cars now on the front row for the start is great for us.
Let us into the garage a little bit. Give us a mind, the way your brains work. Are you saying to the other side to help you out on track in any way?
No. There's no team order in it. Obviously, there's great respect between us and the other car. We're helping each other all the time. So they've got their championships fight. We have. Clearly, I've got a much shorter pit stop than Luca in the first race, so I really just need to sit behind him, not do anything. The last thing we should do is fight and lose time between us. So hopefully, if we get away cleanly, we can just get our heads down.
Sounds very, very sensible. Engines are firing up, so back to you, David. Thanks, Mark.
Cheers.
Bryn, thanks. Yeah, engines have fired up. Green flag is shown, so the final part of qualifying is underway. As you look at the super slow-mo of Mark Warren's car, it's now got Jack Brown aboard it, and the team's pretty eager to get out, actually. The Mahiki Ginettas, I should say, have all gone pouring out, but nobody else. So Ginettas have got the track to themselves right now. So Mark Warren, a spectacular early part of qualifying with the McLaren bouncing over the curb, snapping sideways as it biffed the big sausage curb. Jack Brown there is aboard number 90 now, and he accelerates on track with purpose.
Yeah, really trying to get some temperature there. They were still in the air, but they still had those hot tyres seeping temperature. I think what the top teams did there, Century especially, we're just looking at the GPS tracker on the TSL timing screen to see that the 30 Mercedes was still on track, and then they could judge when to get ready, which now Charlie Robson is.
Yeah, the car is off the track. It's not been brought back to the paddock, but it's out of harm's way. So the team will have to wait until the very end of the session before they get the car and can do any work on it. Out of the pit lane is going to go Charlie Robertson. He's got to be a candidate for pole position. Number 88 Ginetta here is Joe Wheeler at the wheel of the car. So one to watch, the son of the late Peter Wheeler, who was the owner of TVR for a long year, with great success in his tenure of ownership as well. So Joe Wheeler, who's raced in McLaren Trophy as well as in GT4, comes now onto Bentley Straight. Wide open this in terms of guessing who's going to get pole.
Yeah, it really is. You can see the Mahiki cars having to work the tyres to try and get that temperature back in them. The 84 car, I love the body language of them. And we can see the BMW there, Charlie Robertson. And we've seen cars using more and more curve, haven't we? We saw Mark Warren, I think, use too much under the bridge, and that disrupted the car. And it's a bit of the theme of Snetterton with the amount of big FIA sausage curbs here, and here's one of them. And this, wow! And that was Ravi Ramri there up on two wheels for a long, long time. He looks back at that now, Ravi Ramri. That wasn't me, that must have been Robertson, even though he's not gone past that corner yet, Ravi.
Yeah, quite. So Ravi Ramid, I'm afraid, the evidence is there for the two-wheeling antics, but Charlie Robertson is going to be a candidate for pole position. So remember, 10 minutes in this part of qualifying, and the time rattles through pretty swiftly as the number 71 BMW here accelerates up from the Oggie's corner. 84 Ginetta, meanwhile, is Jack Mitchell. Ginetta Junior champion. He's raced in Minis, he's raced in Senior Ginettas, he's raced in GT4, he's been a class champion, he's raced in China GT, had a brief spell in the British Touring Car Championship. Very versatile driver, never quite gets the breaks though.
No, and very quick in the GT3 car as well. He's literally raced everything, and a very good driver coach as well. Works hard in the paddock within the Ginetta community as well. Car looking good, and it pitches and rolls so much, that Ginetta. It's been a big transition for Mahiki from the Lotus, not just the team, but the drivers have had to just jump aboard mid-season. And at the moment, Jack Mitchell seems to be doing well, but it's actually Joe Wheeler with the fastest Sector 1 so far at the three cars. Jack Mitchell only half a tenth behind him in that fastest Sector 1, now taken by Jack Brown in the Optimum McLaren.
So 84 Ginetta then. Jack Mitchell at the wheel, accelerates down Bentley Straight, 6.5 minutes and counting. Time rattles through pretty quickly here as coming down towards the S's then the Mahiki fleet of Ginettas. So quite a bold gamble to switch away from the trio of Lotuses to a trio of something else. Got the cars quite late before Spa. That was really the first time out, but lessons learnt. And a bit of a twitch as the Jack Mitchell Ginetta comes out of bomb hole, heads into Coram Curve now. Through that long left he comes. And this is going to offer up the target time in this final part of qualifying.
Yeah, it's going to go provisional pole because he's the first. It's going to be very tight with Wheeler. They've traded tenths over the first part of this lap. At the moment, Jack Brown clear of them, so expect that Optimum McLaren to go to the front as Mitchell breaks the beam. 55.8. Yeah. That's, 9 tenths off what we saw Hopkinson do earlier.
And Blake Anglis, new to a race seat, I mean the reserve driver goes third, and Joe Wheeler goes second, but Jack Brown has done an absolute best second sector. Charlie Robertson has done an absolute best first. So at the moment it's all a bit Ginetta-ish, but that's about to change. Here comes Jack Brown, then he breaks the beam and he goes fastest on a 1:55.586. Nicely done. That's 2 tenths up on Jack Mitchell. Harry George now goes third in the pole car from Q1. And this is Charlie Robertson, who's done an absolute best and then a personal best, and he should be in the mix as well by the end of this lap.
Yeah, I think that's right. We went on board briefly there with Jack Brown car looking brilliant balance-wise, so he'll be definitely pushing on for a few more laps. No way those tyres have dropped off. Charlie Robertson using all the track and more out of bomb hole now through corner. You can see him working the wheel, just trying to feel the grip. It's an interesting corner these days. That's the politest way I can describe corner. It's like turning right at a roundabout. It goes on forever and gives no feedback as a corner.
So Charlie Robertson is about to offer up a flying lap. He's got to be in the mid 155s or the low 155s to pole, and he's a 55.3. He's nearly 2 tenths up on anybody else. That's fastest, and he does that with 4.5 minutes to go. Nicely done. Nicely timed as well.
Yeah, very well. But Jack Brown nearly 3 tenths clear. Everyone's still improving at the moment. Brown is the standout improvement at the moment. Mitchell is on a big improvement. He's only 4 tenths off fastest at the moment. Wheeler is also on a good lap, not quite as good as Mitchell. I think Mitchell here could get within a tenth as we see damage on the front of that McLaren. A huge amount of the bodywork missing for Harry George as he clattered the tyre stack on the inside of Hamilton, would be my guess, and he's limped around a couple more corners. It could get away with not being a red, but where is all that bodywork gone from that McLaren?
We might find out on this next lap as up to the top of the times goes Jack Mitchell now, 55.1. So another 2 tenths pulled out over the opposition. Here coming up to the timing line is Joe Wheeler, who is at the moment 5th, and he goes through up to 4th now, 1:55.698.
The other one.
This is Jack Brown in strife in number 90 McLaren, and that's coming out of Coram. He's avoided turn 12, and he's also missed pit in, so he's going to have to limp round for another lap. So that's the session virtually done, isn't it? Red flag.
I don't think he knew it was a red flag. It was a bizarre decision to go there. Has he got a problem? He's going straight to full course yellow. That's the flashing lights on the dash because it's 80 kilometres an hour under a red flag. But was that a similar issue? We saw Miller and he's just gone and he's gone there. But there's a huge amount of damage on the front left corner. We're being hidden at the moment from it. But I think he's clouted the tyre stack on the inside of Hamilton, which stops the drivers cutting it. are we going to get a restart here with 3 minutes 30? It's right on the cusp. They could get a lap in, but are the tyres going to be there? That's the next one. There's some big losers at the moment. Ingram in the Jolt McLaren hasn't set a lap. They're last as we see the team look on. That's a Jekyll and Hyde session, isn't it? Mikey Porter, another Optum McLaren there on the left. And there is that car of Ingram who hasn't set a lap. And I think they did set a lap, but lost it to track limits.
Yes, indeed so. Charlie Robertson limps back, as it were. Slowly makes his way to the pit lane, second fastest. Yeah, 3.5 minutes gives you an outlap and one flyer, but there's a lot of debris off the McLaren. So yes, it's not just a car, it's the debris that's caused the red flag. Peter Daly, the race director, not prepared to let cars keep driving through that because driving over debris punctures tyres lead to bigger accidents. So there is Joe Wheeler. Yeah, 3.5 minutes on the clock. As I say, you could get an outlap and one flyer.
We also got timetable issues as well. We almost used the lifeline up early, didn't we, with the off of John Curry. You can see Harry George walk away from that. That would have been a huge bang of an impact. Those tyres, they're 5 high and 6 stacks of them must weigh 100, 120 kilos, so they do not move at all. Sometimes they even get tethered into the ground, which I'm not a huge fan of. I know we've got to enforce track limits, but these are expensive cars, and that seems like quite an archaic way of doing it as the marshals run to sweep that debris away.
It always strikes me as odd that we can suspend races because there is a car in a dangerous place that can be 6 feet off the road, and yet you're leaving a tyre stack absolutely inches off the racing line as an obstacle that people can clip. It does seem slightly counterintuitive.
Yes, I would agree with you for once, David, from a driver's perspective.
Gosh, today's the day.
You can see how hard that is for the track worker to move that. And yeah, it's moved out of its place. Luckily, it didn't get moved onto the racing line and get anyone else. But as a great illustration of how heavy that is, the conveyor belt as well, wrapping round it. And yeah, I actually worry how much damage potentially on the chassis legs of that car. The cars are designed to crumple in a crash, of course, but that's quite a strange impact for a race car to take, and that's going to be quite a late night. Charlie Robson showing intention there that he wants to go. Is that going to attract a penalty? Because the fast lane has not been declared open. He's just cruised straight down pit lane, hasn't he, to go and take that place. It'd be interesting to see what Peter Daly does, and the sister BMW as well. So Century have said, we're going straight down. I'm not sure that's to the letter. Mahiki now doing the same as well with the 84 car, Jack Mitchell, who is our provisional pole-sitting car, and that sometimes is the positive of going early, is you get the most laps in early. If there is a problem, red flag, you've got the best chance of having a fast lap on the board.
So the sweeping is almost done. I don't think it's the car particularly, it is the debris. Still slightly intrigued as to what happened to Jack Brown with that weird crawl across the grass. But the McLaren number 90 currently third, and he has only just got towards the pit lane. He's had to limp round. So the red flag has saved him because we'd have run out of session on that lap for him. So it is number 71 BMW at the moment, second fastest thanks to Charlie Robertson, but we can hear from Ravi Ramyeed after his efforts in Q1.
Well, Ravi, you seem a little bit disappointed with your session out there. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, the car was a bit loose through turn 1, which cost me because I clipped the sensor. That was the best lap. And there's probably another 3 or 4 tenths on the table, maybe. And then I was up on my last lap, and it went red. So, yeah, I know it wasn't great. And the lap before was just a warm-up lap, so we just bring the tyres in on the first lap, so it wasn't really a representative lap of what the car can do. So look, it is what it is. This is racing, isn't it? But who'd have called 2 red flags?
It's the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? You're like buses, really, these things. Charlie Robertson, though, has got his work to do out there. He's currently second quickest with a restart happening, say imminently, but a few minutes away.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to improve. The car's been sat for a few minutes. Tyres going to go down a bit, aren't they? So let's see. So, but, you know, anything's possible. It's nice and hot out there. Fingers crossed.
Give us an idea of what it's like around this circuit in these sort of temperatures. And I know Spa was pretty hot last time out, and you did quite well. Yeah,
I felt the same, really. The ambient's quite high. The air conditioning doesn't really work in the car. Just like sort of blows a bit of warm air at you. So you just got to suck it up and get on with it, really. But it's good fun.
On reflection from Spa last time out and looking into this one here with the 2 1-hour races, the 2 sprint races coming tomorrow, with your position in the championship, 27.5 points off. There's still all to play for, and I was just saying up there with an interview earlier on, so much to play for, and strange things have happened in British GT.
Yeah, I mean, you can't call it, can you? I mean, essentially, you couldn't have called the 2 red flags here, so who knows? But, you know, it's eyes forward, elbows out as normal, and just have some fun, you know?
You have a fairly tricky race in race 1 tomorrow, though, with that 10 seconds in the pit stop.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be tough. I mean, we know know race 1 is damage limitation. But, we're here to have some fun as well, so it's just go and do the best we can, see what happens, and we've always got race 2.
But you're mildly optimistic.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely mildly optimistic. Ravi, thank you.
No problem, thanks a lot.
All smiles, Ravi Ramid, and there is number 90, the Jack Brown McLaren, which has finally made it back to the pit lane under this red flag, but a rather quirky lap. And this is what happened. So he comes through Coram, it gets sideways and offline, it ends up on the grass and just toboggans its way across. And eventually Jack slows the car right down, but the line that he takes misses pit in. He's then prepared to go and do a lap, and just as he rejoined, out came the red flag.
Yeah, we jump on board now. This will be interesting. So he'll turn into the right of Coram, and he has a snap of oversteer straight away. Some dust on the track. Watch the steering wheel now, and he has to correct it, which gets him off the rubber onto the dirty side of the track. I'm just surprised he doesn't slow it down now and go more right to rejoin the circuit like we saw Josh Miller do, because this is a long, long ride. Like you've said, we're missing pit entry. We're then compromising our next lap. You think you'll see the red flag, the red lights come on that gantry, come up in the next few seconds. There they go. So that kind of saved him, but yeah. An interesting moment.
And there in the, you can see the McLaren of Harry George having hit the tar stack, being bounced out wide, and the damage that Joe was talking about is evident on that front left corner. He gets back onto the circuit, and then it does not want to turn, does it? That corner is broken. There's bodywork, there's piping, there's everything. Session done, and the best he can do is limp round the corner and park it.
That's 15,000, 20,000 euros worth of damage. The headlights gone, the wing, as you said, the ducting, and actually good to see the design of the McLaren. I was involved in it, and we moved all the radiators inboard so we could hit more things without damaging radiators, and that was actually a good illustration of it there. There used to be a high temp radiator there, and we moved it inboard so we could get away with stuff like that.
So you were the crash test dummy?
Yeah, exactly, and that's a compliment for me. As we go on board the McLaren, you can see the dashboard going there. So the centre one flashing red, that's the marshalling display system, and then it's got a pit lane page, this McLaren. So when he goes out onto track and he turns the pit limiter off, which is done by the top right button flashing red at the moment, you get a whole heap of information. You can see the traction control dial in the centre of the wheel, ABS there. There's more buttons on the centre console, the brake bias as well, that blue dial. Interesting, just looking at their tyre pressures, they've dropped a fair bit, 1.5 on the front axle, 1.4. Expect them to be a 1.75 or so bar on track. Doors open, trying to keep the drivers cool. Mechanics just checking underneath. Not surprisingly, after that grassy trip, you can see the radiator still showing some remnants of the Norfolk soil.
So when we get back running, there will be 3 minutes and 36 seconds on the clock. It is a case of having put the tyres back in place. Now the McLaren might as well be scooped up. So up it goes, elevate, and that will head to the back of the flatbed, and that will be put to a safe place. Doesn't necessarily have to go back to the pit lane, but just get it off the track, and then they can scoop all the cars up at the end of the session. The number 17 McLaren is ready to be dropped down and almost done. This is a reload on a low loader or something, isn't it, at the moment? But the McLaren, I'm afraid, is going to be repair overnight. We are a minute and a half from an estimated restart time, so the team's getting ready to go. 88 set to go back out. Joe Wheeler currently fourth in the times, and the one that really needs a lap is John Ingram, the ex-Formula 3 racer, because that car has nothing at the minute and is slowest of all, and that's one way of making the air conditioning kind of work.
Yeah, using the lollipop to try and fan some air there. Interesting balaclava. You don't see many of them anymore. The piece over the nose, very retro, and probably the best one to wear in a fire. I was going to say probably not for me, because I could do with a bit off the end of the old nose. As we look at the back, one of those Ginettas, lovely V8 noise out of these if you are trackside. Probably, actually, I think my favourite sounding GT car here at British GT, I think better than any of the GT3s, as I see some of my relatives enjoying the sun.
Just going back to this air conditioning system, we're not talking like you find in a road car. How much of an impact does it make? How heavy is it? I mean, is it taking a lot of power? Does it sap energy?
Without throwing the secrets of the industry away, it depends how it's presented
right.
In balance of performance. It can be on, and that power is then subtracted from what is allowed in balance performance, so there's no power loss. and if you turn it off, you then start to overboost, so the system naturally goes. So it depends on the system. It can draw up to 5 horsepower if it's not calibrated correctly in the balance of performance, but most of these modern GT cars now, there's no power loss. There's an equivalence allowance, essentially.
And is it heavy?
It can be really heavy, up to 25 kilos. Some have got more of an electric system now, so you can get rid of the compressor and the flywheel element of it. But yeah, and when they fail, they make a horrible noise, can actually cause a lot of damage to the cam belt as well. So sometimes there's an air con delete on these cars because they don't want the potential, and the drivers are just told it. Tough luck.
Fair enough. Right, 71 BMW is at the head of the queue. That means Charlie Robertson is ready to go. And the pit lane officials in contact with race control are ready to tell them to fire up engines, to get ready to go back out on track. We were looking at 16:52. Well, that's passed, so I'm afraid to say it's slightly delayed again. But eager to get back out. 3.5 minutes. That's an outlap and a flyer.
Yeah, the 17 car just moving on the GPS tracker, I can see. So I think we'll be green within about 45 seconds or so. And yeah, Robertson wants to find a position. He's got the best track, but these tyres would have dropped a long way. We saw that on the tyre pressure monitoring system on that Optimum McLaren, didn't we? So I think there needs to be quite a push outlap to get these tyres up to temperature. Is anyone going to be able to improve their time? I think Robertson can. I think Jack Brown possibly. Jack Mitchell got that extra lap in. I'd be interesting to see if that car can fire up these tyres. The problem is as they go colder, they then make the rubber go harder, which is then slower. So I think this is going to be difficult for an improvement apart from the Jolt McLaren, which can do any lap and it's better.
Lights are still red at the end of the pit lane. So 17 is off the track as we understand it, and the light goes green at the end of the pit lane. So we are back up and running. And everybody on their toes for one flying lap. So most importantly of all, don't squander it. No track limit penalty because you just waste the lap.
Yeah, if there's a yellow flag from anyone else, the lap will be done. Just look and see if anyone is not going out, and at the moment it seems most cars taking it. The only two that aren't are the cars that have been crushed and damaged, the 30 Parker car and the 17 Optimum.
Yeah, because of course Phil Keane never got a chance to be in this session after the damage, and now Harry George isn't going to be able to go out. Number 14 there, Chris Solkeld's BMW, only 7th, bit of a surprise that.
Yeah, especially after a strong pre-qualifying. Obviously had a DNF at Spa, so they will be looking to bounce back. And you can see the majority of the cars weaving left to right, just trying to generate any tyre temperature they can do whatsoever. The positive for the drivers here is definitely only one lap, and they've got a lot of surplus, so they can actually lose up to 60 seconds easily and still make the lap. So it sounds silly that you might do a slower lap to generate tyre temperature, but accelerate, brake is the best way to get that temperature, which of course isn't good for lap time. So don't be surprised to maybe see Charlie Robertson hit the brakes relatively hard down the back straight halfway here to get some tyre temp, or would he rather keep the gap to Salkeld? At the moment he's weaving left to right, but very dirty offline at the moment, so it's a hard choice to make for some of these drivers.
So Charlie Robertson arrives at the S's, ready to build up to the start of a proper flying lap, the flying lap, because he'll only get the one in. We're already at under 2 minutes. So there's less than a lap time left in the session as of now, as he comes into a rather dusty Coram curve still. You can see waves of the dust being kicked up as he drives through it. Charlie Robertson, who for many, many years made his name as a Ginetta factory driver. He was a Ginetta Junior champion. He was Ginetta Super Cup champion. He drove a Ginetta and won in LMP3, the European Le Mans Series. But now, relieved of that association, spreading his wings and showing people that he's not just a Ginetta specialist, he's a GT specialist.
Yep, and coaching very well. As we see Mark Warren looking on, he would have been happy with his session. Jack Brown, maybe not quite as happy at the moment. Looking pretty relaxed, though. We're going to be glued to the sector times to see if there's any chance of these cars firing up the tyres and delivering a good lap time.
So heading to the end of Sector 1 is Charlie Robertson. They've got to get the tyres turned on straight away. No second chances in this, because Robertson first out. He'll be the first man to see a checkered flag at the end of this lap. And off the road goes Joe Wheeler. So that's him done.
Yeah, as every Ginetta has had a little off so far, hasn't it, this session. 3/10 off, sorry, just nearly 2/10 off for Charlie Robertson there. So it's on. It's not looking easy, but he'll definitely finish this lap at the moment to see what he can do.
Yeah, so we're looking at sectors, and Sector 1, as you say, is down. but he might as well keep pushing, because if the tyres come alive, sectors 2, sector 3, then the lap will build. Turns the car out of Williams up onto Bentley Straight. So the most touring car looking of all the GT4 machines goes down Bentley Straight now, with Jack Mitchell still the fastest from the time that he did before the red flag flew.
Yeah, no one has improved Sector 1 that's gone out so far, so it's looking difficult. Same for Robertson in Sector 2, not an improvement. So like we kind of thought it was going to be very hard after a relatively lengthy red flag to get these tyres back up at their peak performance.
So through turns the BMW, and Charlie Robertson has done an absolute best speed. Chris Solkeld has done a personal best middle sector. So the BMWs have got a little bit of pace left in them. Charlie Robertson then, with the clock at 0, is about to take the checkered flag. So Chris Solkeld could be an improvement. John Ingram has to be, because he needs a lap time. So here now, up towards the line, comes Charlie Robertson, and it is a 1:55.4 with an absolute best in the last sector.
So the tyres finally came to life, just at the death of it, and Solkeld does improve like you thought he would, but amazing. Maybe that was the problem on Robertson's fast lap. It wasn't a good sector 3, so yes, it was an ultimate then, but maybe it was a mistake, as Ravi Ramreed relatively happy with that. As we look at Jack Brown, doesn't look like this could be an improvement, in my opinion, on his lap. He's actually kind of towed around John Ingram there, hasn't he? And be interested to see where John Ingram can get. Can he get off last place? Can he get anywhere near? No, stays last.
But with a lap time now, at any rate. So what that will do is at least mean that they have done the regulation laps. Down the pit road, Cam's number 84 then. So Jack Mitchell didn't even take the flag on the track. He bailed early, confident in pole position. The team would have been giving him the information. So the Mahiki Racing team, which has had a tumultuous season, what with, changes of personnel and changes of car, pole position for Jack Mitchell by 0.231, and 6 of the 8 we saw all covered by less than a second.
Yeah, really tight in a very disrupted session, and hopefully those cars can be repaired tomorrow, both the Team Parker Mercedes and the Optimum McLaren.
The risk of being pedantic, I'd like them repaired overnight, because if they're repaired tomorrow, they might miss the races, but I know exactly what you mean. So then, in silver, it is Jack Mitchell who is the fastest, and in the Pro-Am part of GT4, it is Charlie Robertson who is the fastest out of our second GT4 qualifying stanza. So Jack Mitchell ahead of Charlie Robertson, the gap 0.231 of a second. Jack Brown was third from Joe Wheeler, Harry George fifth before his accident, then Blake Anglis out for the first time in number 69. Ginetta, Chris Solkeld 7th, and John Ingram got a lap time on the board at the end. We have, though, got John Ingram and also Charlie Robertson under investigation for a red flag infringement. We'll carry on with that story tomorrow if anything comes of it. But well done to Jack Mitchell, a first GT4 pole position of the season for him, and he will start race 2 from pole. Right, join us at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning for the build-up for the warm-up, as we will go racing tomorrow here at Snetterton in the British GT Championship.